So I've been working on mounting or getting all the notches, the finished notches for these deck battens. And so what I'm doing actually is using my chisel and chiseling in notches, you can see in the shear here. And then I went ahead and did a notch for this one in here instead of cutting all the way through. And so I use my chisel again, same thing up here, this one chisel. So chisel works okay. It makes it a little bit rough, but that'll actually give the epoxy something really good to bite to. And you really don't need that much holding power. This is really just about the holding power vertical. And so I've got a pretty big notch here. If I can get this out. There we are. And you can see that notch because the angle's pretty big angle there. So you end up with a pretty long notch. And then I went ahead here and notched this in. So I used the same technique that I used to cut these notches with that battery powered circular saw, but I could only do it to here, and then I hand chiseled the rest. And so working on that. And on the other side, I'm almost done. I'll show you essentially with my chisel. So I've got this last notch that I'm working on for this last outer battens. Nice. Drop my hammer. And so you can see here's the notch. I used that circular saw, and now I have to chisel the rest of the way here. And then I just started to outline where this notch is going to go. So that's how I'm cutting these, the rest of these notches with my chisel. And it works pretty good. Up here, for this one, I had to just do part of it because this bolt happened to be in the way. And so on the other side, it wasn't that way, but on this side, it was. So these aren't exactly the same side to side. So. And then I still have to figure out what I'm going to do with this center one, the strong back. Up here, it'll somehow feather in, and I've got to still figure out what I'm going to do there. One thing to watch out for if you chisel in notches like this is you're going to hit the occasional screw. Which there's one right there, and actually all the notches, I think, well, these two back ones anyway, this one and then this one, I hit a screw. So just take my Dremel tool and cut that off, but just something to watch out for. I got the notches all done for these deck battens here, and I went ahead and I got the holes all drilled, and actually went ahead and put screws in them all, even though I've got to take them out to glue all these. But you can see, so this outer batten here has a short one, and there's a notch here in the shear, and a notch here for the next one. And this next one I was able to notch in here like I showed before, and then here you can see the notch for this inner one. And for the strong back, what I did, I went ahead and notched a little bit. Basically what I did is I bent this down, and I used a piece of 4mm ply, just scrap, to see the contour, how it would go, and it was about right. And so there's a gap here like this where it won't be supportive, but that's not really any different than gaps right here. And what I'll have to do is, my intent is I'll probably have to do a little bit of fairing of this as I start working the plywood, but I don't think I'll need to do a whole lot, but we'll see. And you can see here how this one and the one on the other side, the one right next to the strong back, is up a little bit. And I did that on purpose because as you, again, take a piece of scrap and go out to the edge, it actually goes out just right. And I haven't done finish fairing here. You can see kind of where I've filled in some gaps for this. Just some thickened epoxy. I need to do a little bit more of that, but so when I do the final fairing and start working plywood, I'll see how this all works. But you can see what it looks like now, and all the notches in this basically relocated frame 5, but I had to actually make a new one of these. And what I did is when I clamped these down before I screwed them in, is I was just making sure that they were pretty level, at least quite a ways up. Now towards the front they actually curve down a little bit, which is what they're supposed to do. I think they are anyway. But I try to make sure that these are level, and if they weren't, then I made the notches in the deck beam, wherever it was, a little deeper. And so that's how it turned out.